It was supposed to be just another peaceful Saturday on a lake. Sun was out, breeze was calm, and I was finally getting a chance to take the boat out after a long week. But that all changed the moment I heard the shouting from across the street. I looked up, and there she was. Arms crossed, sunglasses on, and phone already in hand. You know the type. The neighborhood watchdog who seems to think every house, every driveway, and apparently every inch of shoreline falls under her personal jurisdiction. Yep, the HOA Karen had locked her sights on me. Now, for some reason, she had decided that my boat, parked neatly on my property, mind you, was some sort of threat to the order of the universe. "This is a violation," she yelled like she was some kind of law enforcement officer. Before I could even get a word in, she was already dialing 911, demanding that someone come tow this illegal boat. And that's when things got interesting. See, what she didn't know, what she never bothered to ask, is that I'm not just a random boat owner. I'm a Harbormaster. That's right. I oversee this entire lake. I help manage boating rules, safety regulations, and yes, even where boats can and can't be parked. It's literally my job. But instead of having a normal conversation, she went straight to full-blown drama mode. Sirens, threats, the whole 9 yards. The wild part. She actually tried to tell the police that I was trespassing on my own dog . And when the officers arrived, let's just say their reactions were priceless. But even then, Karen wasn't ready to back down. She had a clipboard full of made-up violations, screenshots from who knows where, and a whole speech rehearsed like she was at a courtroom. What happened next? Well, let's just say it flipped the whole situation upside down. You won't believe the look on her face when the officers asked me for guidance. Stick around, because you're going to want to see how this all played out, and how one angry call turned into the most satisfying moment of the year. So, as the two officers stepped out of their cruiser, Karen marched up like she was leading a parade. She wasted no time. She pointed at my boat, then at me, and started rattling off things like unauthorized use of community space and non-compliant trailer storage. The officers listened politely, but I could see the confusion in their faces. Meanwhile, I stood back, just watching it all unfold, because I already knew where this was headed. Let me rewind a little so you understand what's really going on here. Our lake is part of a private residential area, and yes, there's an HOA. But it's not like some big fancy organization with a whole staff. It's mostly just a handful of residents who volunteer their time. I've lived here for years. I've served on the board. And for the last couple of seasons, I've been the official Harbormaster. That means I handle permits, boat tags, mooring assignments, and yes, I literally help write the lake access guidelines that Karen was misquoting. Now Karen, she moved in less than a year ago. She's not on the board. She's not involved in the lake committee. But what she is full of is opinions. She's the kind of neighbor who thinks a misplaced trash bin is a threat to civilization. We've had minor run-ins before, usually over small things, like where someone parks or how loud a barbecue gets. But this was the first time she'd ever involved the police. The kicker, she didn't recognize me. At all. Somehow, she never connected the dots that the guy who manages the lake is the same guy she's been side-eyeing all spring. And I didn't correct her right away, either. I wanted to see just how far she'd take it. She even brought a printed copy of the HOA handbook and highlighted random sections she clearly didn't understand. And just when she thought she had the upper hand, one of the officers turned to me and said, "Sir, do you have any paperwork showing your connection to the lake?" That's when I smiled, because I had something better. But before I could reach for it, Karen cut me off with another accusation, this time even more outrageous. Karen stepped in front of me like she was about to deliver a closing argument in court. She pointed at the officers and said, "He forged those documents. That boat has no legal right to be on this lake. He's abusing the system, and I'm pressing charges." I almost laughed. Forged documents. Abusing the system. I hadn't even opened my folder yet. The officers looked at each other, clearly trying to stay professional, but I could tell they were starting to see what I was dealing with. Now, what Karen didn't realize was that my paperwork wasn't just some printed permit. I had the original signed agreements from the HOA board, the dot lease, copies of emails, maps with my mooring assignments, and even a laminated badge that literally said *Harbormaster*. But instead of showing her all that right away, I let her talk. I glanced over and saw a few actual neighbors watching from their yards. One of them, Dave, gave me a little thumbs up. He knew the truth. We've been boating here for years, and he's even helped with lake cleanup days I've organized. But nobody stepped in yet. Everyone wanted to see how far Karen would go before she hit a wall. Then, like clockwork, Karen pulled out her phone again and started showing photos. Grainy, zoomed-in shots of boats on the lake. Some weren't even mine. She claimed they were evidence of me breaking HOA rules. That's when Officer Number 2 asked her, "Ma'am, are you the HOA president?" Her face twitched just a little. "Well, no, but I represent the best interests of the community," she said. The officer nodded slowly, then turned back to me, waiting for my side. I opened the folder, but before I could speak, another voice entered the mix, someone none of us expected to show up, and that's when things really started to shift. Just as I was about to hand over the documents to the officers, a voice called out from behind us. It was firm, clear, and definitely not amused. "Karen, what exactly do you think you're doing?" Everyone turned. Standing at the edge of the driveway was Mr. Langford, our actual HOA president. Full suit, clipboard in hand, and that same calm but done with this nonsense look he always gets when someone causes problems at board meetings. He wasn't scheduled to be here, which made his sudden arrival even more intense. Karen froze. You could see her processing it, like her brain was searching for an escape route. "Oh, thank goodness you're here," she said, switching her tone instantly. "I was just explaining to the officers that we have someone abusing lake access and trying to intimidate residents." She pointed at me again, like I was some kind of threat. Langford didn't flinch. He walked straight past her and shook my hand. "I heard there was some confusion down here," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Karen's smile dropped. He turned to the officers and asked, "Have you seen the Harbormaster credentials yet?" The two officers looked at each other, one of them replying, "We were just about to, but this woman's made quite a few serious claims." Karen jumped in again. "Exactly. That's why I called this in. You know, we can't just let people store boats wherever they want. This isn't some marina." Langford cut her off. "Karen, he's literally the one who helped write the storage rules." That silence. You could hear the lake lapping gently in the background. But Karen wasn't done. You could almost see her realize this wasn't going her way. And that's when she reached for her final card. "Then I demand an emergency HOA vote to revoke his title," she snapped. "You can't just let one person control the lake without proper oversight." At this point, even the officers looked surprised. One of them said quietly, "Is this still a police matter?" Langford folded his arms. "Actually, it might be now." Right then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced down, and that's when I saw the message that changed everything. I looked down at my phone, and my stomach dropped for a second. The message was from our Lake Patrol coordinator. "Emergency alert. Unauthorized boat activity reported near South Dock. Possible vandalism. You available to check ASAP." My eyes flicked up to the officers, then to Langford, then, unfortunately, back to Karen, who was now pretending to scroll through emails like she hadn't just tried to have me removed from my own dock. I quietly showed the message to Langford. His expression tightened. "South Dock's part of your jurisdiction, right?" he asked. I nodded. That's when the officer leaned in, catching the word *vandalism*. "Is this related to the situation here?" he asked. I hesitated for a second. I didn't want to accuse anyone without proof, but the timing? Too perfect. Just as Karen was accusing me of misusing the lake, An anonymous tip about illegal boat activity hits my asterisk section of the lake. That wasn't coincidence. That was staged. And then it hit me. Karen had been snapping photos, building this little case, and clearly talking to others behind the scenes. What if this wasn't just a one-woman crusade? What if she had help? Maybe someone else on the HOA board who didn't like how I managed things. Or worse, someone trying to take my position. I turned to Langford and said quietly, "I need to get to the South Dock." Now, he gave me a sharp nod. One of the officers offered to come along. Karen, of course, wasn't about to be left out. "I should come too," she said, stepping forward. "If something's going on down there, the HOA has a right to know." Langford shook his head. "No, you've caused enough disruption for one morning." She didn't back down, though. She stood right in front of the patrol car and said, "Then I'll meet you there. I have every right." That's when the officer stepped in. "Ma'am, interfering with an active investigation isn't going to help your case." And just like that, Karen's expression changed again, from smug to nervous. And that's when Langford turned to me and said, "This goes deeper than we thought. You're not the only one she's targeted." We got to the South Dock fast. I took my truck, one officer rode with me, and Langford followed in his SUV. When we pulled up, I could already see it, my backup patrol boat, the one we only used during peak weekends or lake events, was untied and drifting sideways near the rocks. One of the mooring lines had been cut clean, not snapped. ****. I jumped out and jogged down the dock, heart pounding. This wasn't just some kid messing around. Someone had purposely tried to damage patrol property. The officer radioed in the incident, and Langford joined me, his face pale. "She tried to defund the patrol boat maintenance last month, remember?" he said. I nodded slowly. Karen had pushed hard at the last HOA meeting, saying the boat wasn't necessary and too expensive. Most of us brushed it off as another one of her rants. Now it was starting to make sense. As we inspected the damage, something shiny caught my eye wedged under one of the dock planks. I crouched down, reached for it, and pulled out a key fob. Not just any fob. A remote for our security gate. Every board member had one, and each one was individually coded. I handed it to the officer. "Can you trace who this belongs to?" I asked. He radioed it in. A minute later, his partner replied from dispatch, voice crackling. "That key is registered to HOA board member Trisha Lane." Langford's face went blank. Wait, Trisha and Karen carpooled to meetings. That was it. The connection. Karen wasn't acting alone. Trisha, who'd quietly voted against me in board decisions for months, had been feeding Karen misinformation, maybe even helping orchestrate this entire stunt, trying to make me look incompetent, undermining my role, and now we had proof. As the officer secured the boat and documented the scene, my phone buzzed again. Another message. This one was from an anonymous number. It said, "*This isn't over. You may control the lake, but you don't control the board. Watch your back. ***. I stared at it, the dock quiet around me except for the gentle lap of water and the distant sirens still echoing across the lake. Yeah, we'd resolved one problem, but it looked like something bigger was just beginning. The following week was a whirlwind. After the incident at South Dock, the HOA called an emergency meeting. This time, with real board oversight and full community attendance. I brought the damaged mooring line, the gate fob, and the printed message from the anonymous number. I didn't need to make a speech. The facts spoke for themselves. Karen didn't even show up. Trisha tried to play it off like the fob was borrowed or lost, but by then, everyone had connected the dots. The board voted to suspend both of them from any HOA involvement pending further review. Neighbors who'd stayed quiet before started coming forward. Turns out Karen had sent emails, made late-night calls, and even left notes on other people's property about rule violations. Some residents were afraid to speak up. Some thought she had more power than she really did. That illusion broke fast after all this came to light. As for me, I stayed Harbormaster. Actually, the board expanded the patrol's budget and gave the green light for more community boating events this summer. I even got a few apologies from folks who hadn't believed how deep the issue ran. Looking back, it's wild how one call to tow a perfectly parked boat turned into a full-on HOA conspiracy. But here's what I've learned. Sometimes people hide behind rules to feel powerful, especially when they don't understand them. And when you stay calm, keep your facts straight, and let the truth do the talking, the drama eventually folds in on itself. The lake's quiet again. My boat's still in its spot. And I've got an even greater appreciation for the weird politics of neighborhood life. So if a Karen ever shows up at your dock with a clipboard and a bad attitude, just remember, knowing the rules better than them is your sharpest anchor.